My parents were a volatile couple, and so when I was 7 years old, by that time they had married and divorced twice, and this time my mom left, and my sisters and myself, we stayed with my dad. He was the provider, and my mom was an alcoholic. It was just better that we stayed with my dad. But I didn't understand why she left. I did not understand why she would leave us. That didn't make sense to me. I was 7 years old, and that's when I think the door opened for shame to come in on me, and I started believing that there was something wrong, terribly wrong with me. Whose mom leaves them? So at that young age, I began internalizing things in such a bad way. No self-esteem, afraid of everything, and it truly dictated the next 31 years of my life and how I was going to live. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters, and I was the baby. Everybody was trying to take care of themselves. My two older sisters were 6 and 7 years older than me. So my middle sister kind of took care of me. My dad worked all the time. He was a great provider, but emotionally wasn't really in touch with us. And so aunts took care of us. We had some aunts that lived down the street that would watch over us. And my older sisters were very rebellious too, so I saw a lot of things that they did that would really upset my dad, and I would think, okay, don't do that. That's gonna make Dad mad, and so I was a people pleaser from a young age. That's when I learned how to try to make my dad happy, try to make everybody around me happy. I thought if I could just be good enough, things would be okay. You know, I always felt so sorry for my mom because I thought Dad had just kicked her out. I didn't understand that she was an alcoholic and they fought all the time and they weren't good together. But I felt sorry for her, and I wanted her love so badly, and it was just hard for her to connect to us kids because she had left, and my dad didn't make it easy for her to connect to us. And so it felt like all my life I was longing for her to love me and come back. I stayed with my dad after my mom left, and he took care of everything. I mean, he was our provider, he was our safety, he was our disciplinarian, he was everything to us. And when I was 15, he died suddenly of a heart attack, and in an instant, my life changed. So I honestly did not know how I was going to live life without him. And I was angry, really angry with God for taking him and leaving me with this lost feeling. And what that did, it left a hole in my heart when my dad died. And I went on a mission trying to fill that hole. And nothing worked. Not men, not relationships, not moving to another city, not drugs, not alcohol, but I tried everything to fill that hole when my dad died. I was just angry. I was angry that he wasn't with me anymore. I was angry that I was kind of on my own without my parents. I was still angry at my mom a little bit for leaving, but yet I wanted her to love me. So it was just a confusing time for me, and at the root of all of it, I was just lost. I went to church camp when I was 11 years old with some cousins, Hidden Falls Ranch, and I accepted Jesus as my Savior. Now, at that time, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I'm so grateful that I did it, because from that point on, Jesus was with me. He was with me. I wasn't with him though. I believed, but I wasn't a follower. And I came home from church camp and went back to my very dysfunctional family where we really weren't following Jesus. And I didn't learn about his love for me. I didn't understand his love for me. I didn't understand really what he had done for me until many, many years later. I perceived other people didn't approve of me, so it just caused me to go into more people pleasing and more seeking man's approval. And that is an exhausting way to live when you never feel like you measure up. When I said yes to Jesus, he started peeling off layers of guilt and shame and condemnation from me. And it didn't happen all at once, but I knew in an instant that I wasn't going to have to live with guilt and shame for the rest of my life. I first heard this statement, identity controls behavior, from Bill Spencer, who came to our church. And it was the most profound statement I'd heard in a long time, and I wrote it in my notes. And I kept thinking about it. Identity controls behavior, and our pastor preaches a lot about that too. And I feel like all those years that I was lost and misbehaving and making bad choices was because I identified as a bad person. There was something inherently wrong with me, and therefore I made bad choices. So I'm feeling unworthy, I make unworthy choices, and that is how I live my life, from an identity of you're unlovable, you're unworthy, you're insignificant. And so when Bill Spencer said that, and I started just pondering on that and asking God to reveal to me something about that. How could that change me? He started saying to me, I'm your creator. I'm the one that made you, and I made you lovable. I wouldn't have sent my son to die for you if you weren't valuable. You are significant. And one that I love that he tells me is you are chosen. And so from this new identity I make better choices. Not perfect by any stretch. I still make mistakes, but I function from a place of who God says I am and not who I thought I was all those years ago.